Have you ever wondered who your husband or wife was in a past life? Or perhaps the better question is, why did the two of you meet at all? Buddhism teaches that no meeting is ever an accident. Some people enter our lives to repay kindness. Some arrive to repay suffering. Some come only long enough to complete a promise made long ago. Then they quietly disappear, not because love was false, but because the karma between them has come to an end. Welcome to Lotus and Lore. Every story plants a seed. Every seed shapes your future. Today, I would like to share an old karma story that has comforted broken hearts for generations. It tells of a man who believed the woman he loved had betrayed him, until one mysterious night, a wandering monk showed him a vision that changed everything. After hearing this story, you may never look at love, marriage, or separation the same way again. Long ago, in a quiet riverside town, there lived a young scholar named Gu Yan. He was intelligent, gentle, and respected by everyone who knew him. Since childhood, he had grown up beside a girl named Wan Qing. They chased butterflies through the fields, flew kites beneath the spring sky, studied beneath the same old willow tree. As the years passed, friendship slowly became love. Their families happily arranged for them to marry. The wedding would take place 3 years later. From that day forward, Gu Yan devoted himself to his studies. He dreamed of passing the imperial examination, finding an honorable position, and giving Wan Qing a peaceful and comfortable life. Every sleepless night, every page he turned, every sacrifice he made for the future they would one day share. At last, the long-awaited year arrived. Only a few days remained before the wedding. Gu Yan had never felt happier. But just 3 days before the ceremony, a messenger arrived with news that shattered his world. Wan Qing had called off the marriage. She had agreed to marry another man. At first, Gu Yan refused to believe it. He rushed to her family home. The gate remained closed. He wrote letter after letter. None received a reply. Days later, he finally saw her in the crowded marketplace. For one brief moment, their eyes met. Her eyes were filled with sorrow, as though she wanted to explain everything. Yet she remained completely silent. Not a single word left her lips. That silence wounded him more deeply than betrayal ever could. From that day on, Gu Yan lost all desire to live. He stopped eating, stopped sleeping, stopped caring about the future he had worked so hard to build. His body grew weaker with every passing week. Before long, he could no longer leave his bed. Doctors came one after another. Each offered different medicines, yet every one of them reached the same conclusion. This is not an illness of the body. It is an illness of the heart. One rainy evening, as gentle drops tapped against the wooden windows, an old wandering monk quietly arrived at the scholar's home. He stood beside the bed without speaking, looking calmly at the young man for a long time. Finally, he broke the silence. You are not suffering because you lost her. You are suffering because you do not yet understand karma. Gu Yan gave a bitter smile. If this is karma, then karma is terribly unfair. The monk said nothing. Instead, he slowly reached into his robe and took out an ancient bronze mirror. Its surface was old and worn, yet somehow it seemed almost alive. He placed it gently before the young scholar. Then he said, "Look carefully and remember what you are about to see." Gu Yan lowered his eyes toward the ancient mirror. At first, he saw only his own weary reflection. Then the bronze surface began to ripple like water. The room slowly faded away. The sound of rain disappeared. The wooden walls dissolved into darkness. When the vision became clear, he found himself standing before a vast, lonely shoreline. The sky was covered with heavy clouds. Cold waves crashed against the rocks. The wind carried the scent of salt and sorrow. Not far away, a young woman lay motionless upon the sand. Her clothes were torn. Her long hair drifted in the tide. There was no one beside her. No family, no friends. No one even knew her name. She had died alone, abandoned by the world, for reasons he could not explain. Gu Yan felt an unbearable sadness. Something about her face seemed strangely familiar. Before he could understand why, a traveler appeared in the distance. The man walked along the shore, carrying a bundle across his shoulder. When he noticed the body, he paused only for a brief moment. His eyes showed pity, but he simply sighed, turned around, and continued on his journey. Soon another traveler arrived. This man stopped beside the young woman. He remained there quietly for a long time, without speaking. He slowly removed the coat from his shoulders, carefully covered her body, as though protecting the final dignity she still possessed. After bowing his head in silent respect, he walked away. Gu Yan stared at the man in disbelief. His heart suddenly began to race. The man's face was his own. It was him. He looked toward the monk with trembling eyes. Was that really me? The monk gently nodded, but still said nothing. The vision continued. As daylight slowly faded into evening, a third man approached the shore. He was a poor fisherman. His clothes were patched, his hands rough from years of hard labor. When he saw the lonely body, he did not leave. He searched the beach until he found an old shovel. Then he began to dig. The ground was hard. The wind grew stronger. Still he continued. His hands blistered. Darkness surrounded him. Yet he never stopped. At last, a simple grave was finished. With great care, he lifted the young woman into the earth, covered her gently, then placed a few wild flowers upon the fresh soil. He knelt quietly beside the grave, closed his eyes, and whispered a silent prayer. Only then did he rise, pick up his worn fishing net, and disappear into the night. The waves continued rolling onto the shore. As though nothing had happened, the vision slowly faded. The ocean disappeared. The sound of the wind became the sound of rain once again. Gu Yan found himself back inside his room. The bronze mirror had become still. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Finally, the monk broke the silence. The young woman you saw on that shore was Wan Qing in a previous life. Gu Yan felt his breath catch. The monk continued. The first traveler simply walked away. No karma was created. The second traveler was you. You covered her body with your coat. A single act of compassion. A single seed of kindness. Because of that kindness, she returned in this lifetime to love you, to walk beside you, to repay that debt of gratitude. Gu Yan listened without moving. The monk's voice became softer, but the fisherman gave her something far greater. He stayed when everyone else left. He buried her with dignity. He gave peace to someone the whole world had forgotten. That kindness created a deeper cause, a stronger bond, a debt that could only be repaid through a lifetime together. The monk looked gently into Gu Yan's eyes. That fisherman is the man she is marrying in this life. Tears slowly filled Gu Yan's eyes, not because he still felt betrayed, but because at last he understood. Wan Qing had never broken her promise. She was only completing one that had begun long before either of them were born. What he believed was betrayal was simply the ending of an unfinished story, and what he called loss was nothing more than karma reaching its natural completion. For the first time since his suffering began, the weight upon his heart became lighter, not because his pain had disappeared, but because it finally made sense. The old monk quietly put the bronze mirror back into his robe. Outside, the rain had stopped. Moonlight slowly filled the room. He looked at Guyan with gentle eyes. Then he spoke again. Most people misunderstand karma. They think it is reward or punishment, but karma is neither. It is simply the unfolding of causes and conditions. Every thought, every word, every action plants a seed. Some seeds bloom tomorrow. Some wait many years. Some wait for another lifetime. Nothing is ever truly lost. Nothing simply disappears. It returns. When the conditions are ready, the monk paused, then continued. Many people spend their lives asking, why did this person leave me? Why was I betrayed? Why was my love not enough? But these are not the deepest questions. A wiser question is this: what did this relationship come here to teach me? Every person who enters your life arrives carrying a lesson. Some teach you kindness. Some teach you patience. Some awaken courage. Others reveal the attachment hidden inside your own heart. Even painful relationships have a purpose. Without winter, we rarely appreciate spring. Without loss, we seldom understand gratitude. Without heartbreak, many people never begin searching for wisdom. Guyan lowered his head. The anger he had carried for so many months was quietly dissolving. He finally understood. Wan Qing had never belonged to him. She was never something to possess. She was simply a companion walking beside him for part of the journey. When their paths separated, it was not because love had failed. It was because their shared karma had reached its natural conclusion. The monk smiled gently. There is an old saying among Buddhists: 100 years of cultivation allow two people to cross the same river. 1,000 years of cultivation allow them to share the same pillow. Whether those numbers are literal does not matter. The wisdom behind them does. Meeting someone is already extraordinarily rare. To walk together for even a single season is something worthy of gratitude. Many people cling to relationships that have already ended, not because love is still alive, but because attachment refuses to let go. The tighter they hold, the more they suffer. This is why the Buddha taught, attachment is the root of suffering. Love itself is not the problem. Possession is. Expectation is. The belief that someone must remain exactly as we wish. That is where suffering begins. To love someone is to appreciate their presence, not to imprison them with your expectations. The monk slowly stood, preparing to leave. Before reaching the door, he turned back one final time. Do not waste your life grieving what was never yours to keep. Instead, be grateful that your paths once crossed. Some people remain beside us for a lifetime. Others stay only long enough to change our hearts forever. Neither is more valuable than the other. Each relationship fulfills its own purpose. When that purpose is complete, holding on only creates more pain. Learning to let go creates peace. Weeks later, Guyan returned to his studies, not because he had forgotten Wan Qing, but because he finally understood her. Whenever he remembered her, there was no longer bitterness, only gratitude. The Buddha taught, if you wish to know the causes of your past, look at your present life. If you wish to know the results of your future, look at what you are doing today. Every meeting plants a seed. Every farewell harvests one. Perhaps the person who left your life did not come to stay forever. Perhaps they came to awaken compassion, to teach forgiveness, or to help you discover the strength you never knew you possessed. When their purpose was fulfilled, they continued on their journey. And now, it is your turn to continue on yours, for every ending is also the beginning of another path, and every step you take today is quietly creating the people, the love, and the karma you will one day meet again. Before you leave, I'd love to ask you one question. Do you believe the people in our lives meet us by chance or by karma? Share your thoughts in the comments. May wisdom guide your soul. May peace make you whole. I'm Molly. See you in the next story.